here with Pro Tour top 8 competitor Luis Scott Vargas, and I have to say that 7 more times actually to get to the full total.
Only one per Pro Tour at this point.
Okay. Luis Scott Vargas, we're talking about a single card spotlight on Tamiyo Field Researcher. This is a card that's in your sideboard of Bant Company. Bant Company's a pretty tight list. How does Field Researcher crack the team roster?
Yeah, Tamiyo's probably our second best sideboard card. Clash of Wills might be our most important one. I actually wish we had played that card main deck. But anyway, so what Tamiyo does, her first 2 abilities are both incredibly good and in the opposite kind of games, which is kind of how you want them. So the +1 means that when you're playing against a control deck, you can just play Tamiyo, +1 on 2 your creatures attack, draw 2 cards. So she's another threat against like languish decks. Imagine you have 2 creatures out, they decide not to languish. You play Tamiyo, +1, draw 2 cards. All of a sudden, if they languish, kill your 2 creatures, you still have a Tamiyo and you're up 2 cards and you just bury them in card advantage. I actually had a game where I was +1ing on my Lumbering Falls. And if you look at the ability, you can Tamiyo their creatures. So I had a game also against Owen where I +1 on my creature and his Pilgrim's Eye and then hit, and then next turn he had the choice of attacking with Pilgrim's Eye, but it would draw me a card. So very versatile ability and gives you a bunch of extra cards. The -2 is also really important in the other kind of game, which is when there's a board stall or they have a big blocker. So it's perfect that her 2 abilities complement each other really well. I played a game against Reed where I actually got Emrakul twice, and Tamiyo was critical because I top decked Tamiyo, the last Tamiyo. I actually even called it. I was just like, Tamiyo would be pretty good here. And then I was like, ooh. Played Tamiyo, tapped down Emrakul and Ishkana, attack with Sylvan Advocate. He chumps with his last other creature. Next turn he's just dead. So
wow.
The double chilling grasp effect of Tamiyo is very important too. Just let her affect the board even when you don't want the extra cards.
So you talked about it being effective in 2 different types of matchups. Does that let you almost like cheat a little bit in your sideboard, that it's going to occupy two seats?
Yeah, it's really important to have your sideboard cards, play double duty or triple duty. And as it turns out, Tamiyo is great against the black decks with Languish and pretty solid against like the big creature decks, like the Eldrazi type decks.
What about that ultimate? Does that ever happen? Is that something that actually gets played out on the Pro Tour stage?
Well, I had to go read it real quick because we didn't come close to ultimating. The problem is, the ultimate's sweet. It's Omniscience plus Ancestral Recall. I like those 2 cards. But if you +1 Tamiyo 3 times and drawn 4 to 6 extra cards, like you kind of don't need the ultimate. Planeswalker ultimates are awesome. Liliana is very, very relevant. I've actually seen her ultimate happen many, many times. Tamiyo ultimate basically never come up.
All right, Luis Scott Vargas, Hall of Famer, 8-time Pro Tour top 8 competitor, and someone who likes to do a little field research with Tamiyo.